What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Collider Studio presented by Saratoga Spring Water. Right now, we've got another interview for the Pod Generation. Congratulations. I loved hearing the energy and the reactions in Eccles last night. I'm sure you enjoyed that screening.
Yes. Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing.
All right, so we all know about Pod Generation. Our audience does not yet. So, Sophie, I'll give you these honors. I'm sure you're doing this a lot right now.
Thank you so much for saying Sophie.
Can you give us a brief description of what Pod Generation is about?
So it's a surreal satire about a couple having a baby with an artificial womb.
Spot on. Short and sweet. I like it. And also, everybody out there has no idea the amount of detail and layers buried in that very quick synopsis. I always love hearing about the evolution of a script. So what was the very first idea you came up with that got this whole story going? And then do you also remember the last thing you came up with that made it feel whole and like you found a way to bring it all together?
So it was a very long process. I think maybe, when I was expecting my first child, I started having dreams, very strange dreams during that pregnancy. And I think maybe this was the beginning of the process. And this was 13 years ago. But then it evolved and I didn't write it for a long time. So the process is mysterious. You never know how you come to write a story after so many years. And what made it whole, I remember when we were editing, we couldn't find the beginning of the film. And suddenly with the editor, we woke up one day and I was like, I have an idea. And he had the exact same idea. And he was starting the movie with the character of Emilia pregnant. And that image was so strong that it would inform the rest of the beginning of the film because we're like planting the issue of the film. It was about pregnancy, it's about motherhood, and it's about a woman maybe repressing those desires of motherhood. So that was the image that made it all come together.
I love that answer. That's such because also we don't talk enough about how something changes in the edit and how you can really refine something. That's such a good choice. Emilia, I'll go to you next because I believe this is your first feature producing credit.
Yes, it is.
Going into the production, what did being a producer on a film mean to you? And then how did that definition evolve as you went through the process?
Well, honestly, this was something that I'm so fortunate to have a producer credit on it. But I was just hell-bent to be in this movie and therefore needed the movie to exist for me to be in it. So it was kind of like that. So I kind of became having a sort of producerial role simply through my bloody mindedness of just desperately wanting to work with Sophie and desperately wanting to do this film. And I have a production company and that has kind of been folded within this, which is just the best thing in the whole wide world. And I love being a producer, but it's experiences like this. That's all of the work that I'm producing at the moment. It's always that. It's that I have a need to make something. And so therefore being a part of the creative process then becomes like the cherry on top of the cake. I often find as an actor sometimes, I'm going to get slated for this, but there's not very much to do sometimes. You feel a little bit like you've come in at the end. I got so annoyed, so frustrated with coming in to my first day on set and meeting all these people who had been working on something for years and it meant so much to them. And this was day one on set was this huge momentous occasion. And you're sort of there being like, really? I'm just catching up. What's your name? Nice to... You're just late to the party. And so then when you have this kind of... so much skin in the game when you're producing at the same time, it just becomes a more fulfilling role. And getting to do that with Sophie was just a joy and a privilege, frankly.
A little bit of a broader question about that, but having had the experience of producing and having your own company, when you jump into a project where, this is bad phrasing, but where you're just an actor, no one's ever just an actor.
How dare you?
You know what I mean, but where you're just serving the project as an actor.
Yes.
Is there anything that your producing experience now allows you to do as an actor? So even when you only have that one role, you're still getting the experience that you want to have out of a production.
It probably makes me a really frustrating actor because I then get on set and I'm like, I see what's going on here. I read between the lines. I know what's really happening. And I kind of, there are maybe certain instances where maybe actors maybe kind of sometimes get maybe mollycoddled a little bit, maybe, and infantilized in a way, and sort of protected in this kind of otherness of what your role is. And I totally understand why, with, you know, don't break the thing that's got to be on the camera, because then, you know, you broke it and we have to stop filming it. So I understand all those reasons why, but when you do have a kind of producer's eye, you then come onto set and are like, I don't need that. I see what's happening. You can speak to me. I understand. It's all good. Let's go and do this. So it becomes a much more practical thing. But then there's the joy when you're just doing acting in a film. It's slightly more relaxing, I suppose.
I'll toss this to you now, Rosalie, but I want to build on that idea because someone just brought it up to me recently. I think the way she phrased it was that actors are often treated like delicate little eggshells on
my
set.
God.
When sometimes maybe you just need a more direct note or a certain
Yes.
kind of nudge. So
Yeah.
is there anything that you went through while making Pod Generation that felt like, you know, just the right note you needed in order to make something better than had you not received that note at all?
Well, I think it's always a privilege to be on set with the writer-director, because you can collaborate in a way that you can't if then you want to change something, or you're improvising a scene perhaps, and then it has to get okayed and go through things. So I think actually being with the true creator and the person who had the vision for the film, who knows the characters better than we do, you know, what could possibly be a bad note? Because you can't say, I'm not sure, because it's from here, it was made here, it was dreamt up 13 years ago when she was carrying her first child. So I don't have any autonomy on that. But yeah, I mean,
Like my character wouldn't do that.
yeah.
Yes, he would.
Yeah, no, the actor would,
It
because,
is.
yeah, it doesn't exist without me, so get on with it. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think it's a collaboration. I think they're being very humble, because as a director, you nurture yourself from. I think every actor would approach differently. So then you have to. It's a dialogue. It's not like I'm imposing a very rigid character on an actor. And I think Rosie had very specific ideas about that character that she brought to the creative process,
Well,
and
I
that
wanna
didn't come
hear
from me. It
about
came from her.
What would you say is the biggest difference between the version of Linda that you pictured and then who you wound up with after Rosalie was cast in the role?
I think she played it even more demented than what I had. You know, it's like
I
the
like
character is, you can't stop her. She felt almost like, you know, Nicole Kidman in the Gus Van Sant movie To Die For, where this woman is relentless and nothing could stop her. And when she started acting like this, I could imagine, you know, the last picture of Nicole Kidman under the ice, when you're so happy she's been frozen and she's dead and she's never going to come back. And it's this kind of character, like relentless and really nutty. And so this she brought to the character, because I think he was more satirical and a little bit more loose in a way on paper.
I think so. Sophie actually wrote that. Also, I will be frozen in the ice if I stay in Utah, so I will we'll come full circle.
The character I kept have any of you seen The Menu?
No,
No, not yet.
Just Hong Chau's approach. She plays like the Chef Slowik's right hand, and the way she like keeps order and sticks to the plan, and the way she carries herself and speaks to everyone with such authority, like reminded me of how you portrayed this character. Now all I want to see is the two of them on screen together, like running
let's have
stuff.
that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I always get very obsessed with character backstory when I get very invested in a scenario. I'll go to you first on this, Emilia. What kind of conversations did you have with Chiwetel or with Sophie in terms of like how they found each other, and also what they saw in each other when so many like core fundamental qualities and beliefs within them are so drastically different in terms of the way they live their life and the way that they look at technology?
I think for Chiwetel and my characters, it seemed very much like a college romance. That, do you know, I don't as in I'm so, that sounds so bad, doesn't it? Seem like a college romance? No, but as in I'm not sure they would have found that they couldn't have found each other in the worlds that we currently find them in. So I think it had to have been when they were younger and sort of more open with their with who they were and what kind of roles they were going to land themselves in. And I think that we probably find them in the movie, we meet them for the first time at their furthest apart. And that's the beauty of Sophie's writing and of the film, is that the whole story is them just coming back together again. And I've always felt, Chiwetel and I didn't really discuss it, but I've always felt that the end, where they end up in the end, is where they were in the beginning. And that they've kind of just done like a full circle and come back to each other. I know.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Okay, so now for Linda, I want like a whole prequel movie about
Yes.
her.
Yes.
How she got involved in the company, how
Hell
she
yeah.
rose in the ranks. Did you do any backstory work in terms of how someone can commit to a company like that and just so wholeheartedly like go with every single rule that company forces everyone who's part of the womb center to abide by?
Well, I think when Sophie said demented is quite right. But no, I think she struck me as a woman who was not only seeking to be in a man's world, but also to remove the ability for women to actually house their own children to that level. But that kind of, I think there's probably something quite fundamental that for her, maybe she really wanted children herself, and then she's thrown herself into this kind of world where it wasn't available to her, or she just literally is just too ice cold to involve herself in a relationship. I mean, it was just basically a sweet shop there, available of options. But I think one of the things that Sophie said to me really struck me when we were messaging after I got the part about just women in big corporations who are offered money just to freeze their eggs or maybe to have an abortion, and what kind of person that would be, and the fact that would be wrapped up in a nice little bow called a promotion. And I just think you don't have to look too far to realize what somebody might psychologically be made up like to offer people that as a best solution for their lives.
That's why I like movies like this. Sometimes those difficult human realities are only able to be processed through a somewhat heightened futuristic movie like this. Just curious, do you think that if she ever had the opportunity to use a pod, she would take it, especially after learning the behind the scenes? Would she still do it anyway?
I don't think she would give up a pod because she would want the money to rent it out. So I don't think she would. I think she would be like, no, because somebody else needs to use that to pay for it, you know. I don't think that she would be anywhere near a baby. I don't even think she likes children or babies. I think she absolutely just sees that you are renting a space. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to her.
Perfect answer to that question. My God.
Yes.
Is she that demented? Did you write it like that?
I have to talk a little bit about the production design here because it's incredible from top to bottom, but one of my favorite things about the screening last night was the reaction every single time the AI therapist came on screen.
It was so good.
What was the evolution in terms of the look of that particular AI? Did it always look how we see it in the finished film, or did it start in a different place?
So yeah, I always wanted to have an eye, and then as the movie was trying to blend biophilia, which is something that is happening in cities now, we're trying to bring, because we removed ourselves so much from nature, now we're bringing nature into the cities. So you see biophilic walls in a lot of cafes, and it's the new trend. So the idea was to have the organic and the digital blend, so it becomes very confusing for human beings. And you don't know anymore. I guess in the future it's probably going to be like this, that we won't have a reference to know if the machine in front of us is half organic, 80% organic, and what is digital. And that's the era of confusion. And I think if I had to retitle the movie, I could title it An Era of Confusion, because you don't know anymore what's in front of you, you know. And so we could joke about it that artificial intelligence right now, the way Elisa is operating, it's a bit artificial idiocy, because she's like going in circles and she's not very, you know, emotionally intelligent. But one day they will figure it out, I think. So aesthetically for me was the science fiction has to feel very organic. So we believe in it and it's seducing us and we fall for it. And I think we would all fall for it.
I think about that all the time when I watch movies like this. It's so clear to me that a certain something is wrong or probably not the right path to pursue. But as someone who genuinely does like technology and seeing the development of it, I know I would reach for certain things that maybe I shouldn't.
We're wired for this in a weird way. We're creating these things, but now we're becoming slave of the things that we're creating. So it's complex.
Your Andre, who's the amazing DOP and Sophie's husband, said something so brilliant last night about which I I sort of really, I've just been sitting with it, the fact that we have a relationship with our technology where we touch it and it's a sense-based thing. So it just went in on another level, that we actually, maybe we touch our devices more than we do humans right now, because we are always scrolling, or, you know, the amount of time. Yeah, so it's quite terrifying that we could be more intimate with that than our human
touch
being.
humans, but not my cat. I definitely touch my cat more than I do touching A+ cat use in this movie, I have to say. I very
He's a
much
famous
appreciated
French
that
cat.
cat.
He's the best acting cat in
Yeah.
France.
Does he
He's
have a
called
name?
Gaspard.
Gaspard.
He's
We love Gaspard.
We all know what
So
I'm Googling
cute.
when we're done with this interview.
Yeah.
Squishy.
Here's another, like, it sounds silly, but it's so important to, like, the physicality of your character. But what did the pod feel like? How heavy was it? What texture was it? Tell me everything about the actual pod on set.
Well, it was lovely. It was really lovely. It was very pretty. It was very light, obviously, because there wasn't actually a baby in it, guys. But the what Sophie had to keep reminding Chiwetel and I was that as the baby grew inside it, it's going to get a bit heavy. And so we weren't, in the beginning, it was like, oh yeah, there we go, we'll just pass it over here and all that. And it's like, no, actually, it's like 5-6 months old now, so it's quite heavy. And trying to kind of keep the, like, where are we in the story and how heavy is this egg and what are you? But it became very, the comedy just plays itself with this prop. Everything you do with that egg is funny, especially tripping and falling. And
There's one particular thing that you do with that egg in the movie where I laughed out loud, and it was one of those things where, like, the joke had come and gone and I couldn't stop laughing because I kept replaying it. So incredibly well done. Going back to the technology in it, so we have the pod, we have a lot of big ideas, we have the AI therapist, but there's also a lot of little, like, world building kind of elements. Is there any particular thing that doesn't get a lot of screen time that you really loved coming up with and hope people take notice of? But then also, is there anything that you came up with that you couldn't fit into the movie and wish you had?
Well, I love the little Mashas, the cognitive assistants, and they're supposed to be like almost a little pet that you start to develop some affection for, but they're extremely annoying at the same time because they're trying to learn from the human and they're trying to replace humans at one point. But I really love, like, how tactile they are, and everything with an eye, I think, is very, very interesting to look at.
I definitely would be done in by any kind of AI that looks like a pet. Like, that's my weak spot. I would be done.
that would be dangerous.
I would sell my soul for an AI device that was like some form of pet. So you have now created a portable pod womb. You've transferred souls. Is there any other element of like the human experience that you would like to explore through a futuristic technology mashup of sorts?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm obsessed with this idea of the commodification of everything, that America, like, is an incredibly inventive place, but it's also a place where everything is for sale. Everything. And I feel it. I feel like, and it's not because it's America. I think it's the capitalist model that has come to such a degree of refinement that there is no, limits to sell anything. So it's worrisome, but I think also it's, we have to talk about it. It's, there are questions to be raised, like, how far can we go? Is really everything, should everything be a commodity? And also, I mean, this is a bit far-fetched, but I think also the film is an allegory of the film industry, where movies have become commodities, and when you try to get the financing, and we were struggling so much to get this film together, but you feel sometimes the film is just like a minor annoyance and a commodity where, like, hedge funds and financiers are trying to make bets on movies, but they're an art form. So it's not, it's not every movie has to be a big box office success to be a successful movie. But I think for me, the egg is an allegory of a lot of things. It's not just the egg and the baby. It could be a movie, it could be the fact that as artists, we need to commodify our work. And sometimes when you look back at the history of cinema, Louis Buñuel, which is one of the most incredible filmmakers, wasn't making box office hits, but today he would barely make any movies because the industry has become, very commodified. And that's really sad for the human souls and the development of cinema, because there isn't a lot of room for movies that are artistic endeavors. It's more, do they have a commercial potential? And that applies to a lot of other sectors of human activity. You know, the modern art, contemporary art also has become completely commodified. If I decide this bottle costs 10 million and Emilia signs it, then it's going to be 10 million. You know, it's absurd. I mean,
That would make it go down.
Can you sign a couple of these? I'll
Yeah,
take
if
a
you
look.
do that, they're mine.
Yeah.
but so that was my little rant about.
I understand that rant. That's a big part of the reason why we love doing what we do here, because there's certain movies that many people out there will not be aware of unless we're able to amplify them and get them out to the widest possible viewership. Your film will obviously be included in that. In the worst transition ever, I have to let you go. So I wanted to ask about a future project. I think this is the worst transition because I'm going to go to Marvel. I'm determined to ask you a safe question about Secret Invasion, though.
Go on.
So oftentimes when we look at a big franchise like that, we
Yes.
consider the production process to be like the Marvel machine.
Yes.
You now have hands-on experience producing and really taking time with a smaller film like
Yes.
this. Is there anything about the production process of that machine that came as a pleasant surprise? Something that creatively you didn't think you'd be able to pursue, but you were surprised that you got the opportunity to do it?
It's mind-boggling. I gotta tell you, the Marvel, the way that those shows and films are created is mind-boggling. Like it's like everyone at Marvel knows how to unlock the Rubik's Cube, and you couldn't even possibly. I can't do a Rubik's Cube to save my damn life. I hope a lot of people can't also, but there's just it's like they have some secret thing and it just works. And I've tried to understand it, and I've tried to be like, okay, logically, how is this? How do you guys, they're drinking some water over there. I don't know what it is. It's fabulous. It's
Could
maybe
you
made
imagine
of
if
money.
you
I'm
got
not
that bottle of water that they're making?
Right,
You
yeah.
sign that water?
Then we can sell that. No, they nail it. They just absolutely nail it. And I mean, I'm not the only actor to say that working with them is just kind of brilliant. It really is. We had a lot of laughs.
Big part of the reason why I'm always a fan of that franchise. I
Yeah.
see the best things on the screen and I hear the best things behind the scenes
They're
as well.
just so chill. And I think I'm not that chill. And I think if I were them, I would be so unchilled all the time. And they're not. They're like, yeah, it's okay.
Rosalie, for you, I have to go back, not ahead, because we have a lot of 1899 fans who read and watch our content who are very, very sad about what happened. We've heard that the plan was to have 3 seasons,
That's right.
kind of like Dark. I'm not sure how much information you knew about what was lying ahead for your character, but is there any particular layer you were really itching to explore?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. I mean, it was just talking about, you know, having artistic vision, and that is again a fierce couple who make extraordinary art, I think. There was so much for Virginia out there. I mean, I was definitely one of the characters who was about ready to come into her own in season 2, and you maybe would find out why she's so dark, so evil, and just driven the way she is. I mean, I know those things, but I was really excited about exploring them. But I think 1899 is a product of what we're experiencing, algorithms and things not given their life, the proper life they deserved. Bone Yansher are people who create series which take time. They're not binge-worthy, and you have to sit with the pieces of art and think about them and wait for them to develop. But we live in an instant society, so we're a product of that, unfortunately.
Could keep you here for hours. I have a lot of feelings
Do we
about
have
that
2
topic.
more hours to talk?
Do we have to? No, I'm seeing a million rap signs. I have to let you go. I'll close by saying huge congratulations on the pod generation. To everybody out there, do keep an eye out for the movie and stay tuned. We'll have more interviews from Sundance 2023 for you real soon.